with a little bit of a sickness the past weekend, and I was like, I cannot postpone this launch. I am super psyched about finally starting this live stream. This is really like where I think it will be the future of content creation, live streaming, going directly with you guys. So I'm super psyched, and I'm super psyched that you're all already here. We have the quirkiest, quick, I don't know what this is, but run nodes. Very true. You should all run at least you should all run a full node. So like I'm really on this subject of like nodes versus core, all of that. For me, in the end of the day, you should run a full node, and you should make your own decision about that topic. You should not just run an implementation just because an influencer says that. But yeah, let's get started. Hi all. Hi Donnie from New York City. Hi Mike. How are you doing? Really cool. Hi in the chat. Oh, because I said say hi in the chat, and it's hi in the chat. Hi Daniel. Say hi in the chat. Yeah, really cool. Grinding out sats. Yes, grinding out sats every day of the week as I possibly can. Now, before we get started, always and forever, I want to mark the episode, the live episode, with you guys here, with the block time, with the price, with the sats per US dollar. I think this is the most interesting thing to kind of see. So we have currently a block height of 927,988. Man, we are getting close and closer to the million. It will be. I can already guarantee you this, guys. At block 1 million, no matter what time of a day it is, no matter where I am in this world, I will try to make a super stream with all the other creators together and make like a 1 millionth block live stream, and we will be like celebrating like an hour or 2 hours before already. This will be a huge accomplishment to get to 1 million blocks. So this is I'm already looking forward to, now that I see the high number of like 927. This will be freaking huge. Now we have a current Bitcoin price of 87,000 US dollars per Bitcoin, and we have and this means for just $1 US, you're actually getting 1,150 satoshis. I remember on the first live stream just a couple of weeks ago, actually, you are only getting like 700 sats or 800 or 600, somewhere around that range. And now for the same US dollar that you're earning every single month from your fiat job, from your fiat mining, you get 1,100 satoshis, 1,150 satoshis actually, which is freaking incredible if you ask me. So this is cool. I love to see it, and to see that we are now getting more satoshis for the same amount of dollars is for me actually something interesting and something good. You always have to think about that. If we are true, and if we actually if Bitcoin actually pulls it off, and I think it will, that what we think Bitcoin will pull off, this just getting for $1 US more satoshis is something positive, especially if you're young. But even if you're, let's say, 50 years old, you are on the halfway mark. You have a lot of life left in your life, and so you don't want the Bitcoin price to shoot up tomorrow. And so this is kind of my take always on that. But maybe I'm skewed towards that because I'm 27. Now, I want to preface that because this is my first live stream that I'm doing where I stopped with the podcast. And it's not really that I stopped the podcast. If I'm honest, it's more of a rebranding. And so I posted that today that I'm starting it, and so Matt asked me, "Hey, dude, congrats! So what's the difference about this new show? What, like, is it more frequent?" No, like, I think daily is already like very high frequent. I don't know if I can keep up with more than once a day. I don't know if it even makes sense to do more than once a day. So the main difference is I do, instead of pre-recorded, it's live. Like, that's the main difference. And also, like, something very, very important, instead of being guest focused, I want to be topic focused. even though, and this will be 100% true, even though I will get guests back on, I will wait now that Christmas kind of comes around, and that, because like in Christmas, I don't know how the heck like the guests and like all the availabilities, like it's a little bit more complicated around the Christmas times to book guests than around normal times. And now we have the 15th of December. So it will take some time. And after that, I will probably also wait a week. So, but around mid of January, I will reintroduce guests to this show, which I think is really important, because if we cover topics, if we are focusing on topics rather than guests, we actually want to have guests in there to give perspective on topics. So this is something I really want to do. I don't know if I do 5 guests per week or 1 guest a week or like 3 or 2. It will be flexible. So this is like something that's not fixed. It's not like Tuesday every time a guest comes on, but it will become a regular theory. Probably around like mid of next year. It's like, okay, this day will be guest on, just so to some housekeeping to let you know. Now, today's episode, I thought, what is the most important thing I can share with you guys? What is the most important things I can actually give you guys for this first episode? Where can we start off this new chapter of the Robin Seyr live stream, which this is just this YouTube channel. First of all, I made it YouTube only. Live is only on YouTube. It will be like published everywhere else, like on Spotify, on Rumble, on everything else. A little bit polished, probably, like without the live things in front of it and stuff like that. So if you have like the Spotify app, you can like listen there. But I want this community to have a home. I want to have for this community one place where we can all hang out. And it's kind of weird if it's like 2 chats or 3 chats, and it's like Twitter, Rumble, and all of the different places. So I chose the platform where most of the comments, most of the engagement, most of the people are already living, which is YouTube. This is the home base. And I wanted to get into this topic today of the price is going down. There's a lot of bearish content. There's a lot of bearish sentiment, but at the same time, there's not a single reason to be bearish. And I will show you throughout today's episode that there is something changing within Bitcoin. And I think this is really, really important, because we see that people are now adopting Bitcoin on different levels. We see big CEOs now jumping into Bitcoin. We see now nation states, Texas, jumping into Bitcoin. We see so many positive things that is really hard to like debate with. But at the same time, we have a very bearish sentiment. We have a very bad sentiment in the market. And so that's what I really want to address today. And I have some really interesting small videos, small tidbits searched for you guys. Actually, like I searched since I tried to start this episode. I tried to collect and search everything like that, and actually I found so much. I don't know how long this live stream today will go, but yeah, let's dive directly in. This first thing I wanted to show you is, and I couldn't believe actually that he said it. I thought it's AI when I first saw it, but this is the CEO of NVIDIA, Jensen Huang, I believe is his name in this pronunciation. He actually says really good things about Bitcoin, and I thought this one is from December, so it's like really new, and it really ties in nicely also what I will show you guys later. But let's listen to this for once.
Hey, Jensen, thanks for coming here. I'm Mike Chan from Deep Ventures. First of all, you and my wife share a last name, so we should talk about that sometime.
Okay.
Okay. Second of all, I invest in...
If you're suggesting I owe you money.
Check my eye.
I wasn't aware that he is funny also.
I'm just kidding.
So I invest...
Humor's allowed in DC,
Yeah,
isn't it?
yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
all right. This is
Yeah,
my
we need a
first
little
meeting.
more.
I
We need a little more of that.
got the course correct immediately.
So I invest in crypto startups, and our industry would kind of like to thank your industry for taking a little bit of the heat off of the negative PR of Bitcoin mining and all that. But that being said, a lot of power producers, energy producers.
At first, I didn't even get it, but he was basically saying is like we got a lot of bad reputation around 2021 and 2022, actually, where Bitcoin mining was kind of seen as something really bad for the environment. And now I've actually not realized it till I saw this video. Now AI is getting the same BS that Bitcoin was getting beforehand, and now it's like, oh yeah, like AI is getting kind of the heat of what Bitcoin was getting beforehand, because now like nobody talks about Bitcoin in a bad way. Nobody in Bitcoin mining, nobody is kind of claiming it's bad for the environment or is claiming any of those things. It's really now it's only the AI people that are now getting it. And even with AI, the arguments are really stupid in my opinion. So, but yeah, that was an interesting point of this guy that was asking the question.
The excess energy, they allocate that to Bitcoin mining because there's a very clear market there, kind of one-to-one financial market there. Do you see something like that possible in terms of like a smart grid, or like having those companies be able to dedicate some of that excess energy to training models and providing that power to?
You just gave a current example of excess energy being used to convert into store.
Oh gosh, I forgot to share the video, guys. I hope you at least heard it.
One-to-one financial market there. Do you see something like that possible in terms of like a smart grid, or like having those companies be able to dedicate some of that excess energy to training models and providing that power to?
You just gave a current example of excess energy being used to convert to store that energy. Essentially, what Bitcoin is doing is taking excess energy, storing it into a new form. It's called currency. And you take that currency and you take it wherever you like. And so you took energy from one place and now you've transported it everywhere. Now, of course, that's just Bitcoin. Imagine a much more universal currency called intelligence, using exactly all the same concept that you described. You find places with excess energy, go put a data center there.
I don't know. I think I've talked to many people actually, but I think actually Bitcoin is the perfect use case for that. Like taking energy from the real world and applying that energy back with currency to other places. And this is actually something, I don't know. He is really big on the AI things, so like he has a filter and an incentive to say all those things. But I found it really interesting that he got that Bitcoin is an energy-based company, and he's kind of saying, okay, you get the energy, and then you take that energy and you can deploy it everywhere. And it kind of matches on to what Elon Musk's recent comments were. Elon Musk basically said, hey, like the only true currency is energy. And I actually searched for that clip and I found something really interesting. I found something that I wanted to share with you guys. It is Neil Jacobs. I met him in Abu Dhabi, I think like a couple of days ago, actually. He made a video. I think he made the video. He made the video that Elon Musk shows Elon Musk's thoughts on Bitcoin since 2014. And that was really interesting for me because Elon Musk is a pretty controversial figure, but he's not to be underestimated. He is someone that combines a lot of different powers that you need to be powerful on planet Earth. He combines the power of having electric cars, like having the grid and the AI all for him and the robotics for him. He combines the power of having Starlink up in the stars and combining that of having internet on the global Earth. Like he has a lot of powers that are outside of money, where you could even make the argument for him, money doesn't really matter at this point because he controls so much critical infrastructure where even the US government can't really do anything against this. And so having him his thoughts around Bitcoin evolving over time was really interesting for me to see, and I wanted to share this. It is a 7-minute video, and I watched it, but it was really interesting to go through, and I will jump through that video a little bit, so it's not like the full 7 minutes, but it was really interesting for me to see how his status and how his thinking evolved around Bitcoin, and it will all lead up to my later point that I will make later in the live stream. So let's get started with the Elon Musk video.
Some things maybe shouldn't be illegal. But
the combination of Silk Road and Bitcoin will save us.
My opinion of Bitcoin is that I think Bitcoin is probably a good thing. I think it's primarily going to be a means of doing illegal transactions. But that's not necessarily entirely bad. It's not, some things.
And this was the whole spiel of 2014 and 2013. So I only know that from OGs that told me on the podcast, because I wasn't around at that time in the Bitcoin space. I came in 2020 and started observing in 2020. So 2014 was definitely where I was first only 16 years old, but second, I had no clue about Bitcoin whatsoever. And so seeing it from the OG lens, and they're telling me how it was, most of the FUD that we now see is very different. Now the argument, Bitcoin is only used for criminals, you can still hear it here and there, but you hear it from people that really have done no research whatsoever about Bitcoin. Back in the day, it was a different era. You were kind of criminal, like you were seen kind of as criminal if you have done something with Bitcoin. Even the way you acquired Bitcoin was kind of almost criminal, because there was not a lot of regulated exchanges all around the world. In a lot of the places, you couldn't buy Bitcoin easily. You had to go you have to go to some websites that looked shady and then transfer some money, and it needed a lot of time. Or you met some guy in a forum, and you actually met him in real life, and like he gave you the Bitcoin, you gave him cash. Like it all kind of like it actually was kind of had some criminal vibes to it. It was not the money for criminals. It never was. It was never intended to do it like that. But it definitely had some vibes in that regards. And so it was interesting that like Elon Musk at that time kind of mirrored those thoughts.
Maybe shouldn't be illegal. But
the combination of Silk Road and Bitcoin will save us.
Well, it will be used for legal and illegal transactions. Otherwise, it would have no value as a use of for legal transactions, because you have to have a legal to illegal bridge.
Yeah.
I don't own any Bitcoin.
And this is such an interesting point. I've never heard that point made by anyone actually in the Bitcoin sphere. If you have something that is only used for criminal activity, it wouldn't have any value. And I thought that is quite genius, actually, because you need the bridge between illegal stuff to legal stuff. Otherwise, you would never have a market for that good. And so if we make the assumption that Bitcoin is actually just used for illegal things, it is just used to like make things that are completely illegal, then at the same time you have to say, okay, if it's only used for illegal activities, you can never get it out of the illegal system. So you need some crossover, because otherwise it's useless. You can just buy illegal things for it, but not legal things with it. And so this is kind of interesting, the kind of argument that he brought up, that you need the illegal to legal bridge in order to make sense. And this is actually the bigger point then in that every single currency, every single medium of exchange or unit of account will always be used for criminal and illegal stuff as well as the legal stuff and the normal stuff. If and knife, it's the same. It's a very boring example, but the same way as a knife and fire and weapons are used for the good side and the bad side. It's like always used for both things. You can use a knife to cut tomatoes for your salad, or you can use a knife to kill a person. And so it's like all those things really make sense when you look from first principles, because at the same time where you see, okay, we have illegal activities on Bitcoin, you can also make the arguments we have a lot of illegal stuff with other currencies that are not looked at like illegal. For example, the US dollar. So you need that bridge. You always need kind of both ways, I guess. Yeah.
I'm neither here nor there on Bitcoin. Yeah. Yeah.
What did you think when you read like Satoshi's white paper for the first time? You're like, oh, it's pretty interesting. Or
That was pretty clever. It's just like the things. Yeah. this always gets like the crypto people angry, but there are transactions that are.
Keep in mind, this was 2020 at the time where, so like about 1 year before Tesla actually bought Bitcoin.
Not within the bounds of the law. And there are obviously many laws in different countries. And normally cash is used for these transactions. But in order for illegal transactions to occur, the cash must also be used for legal transactions. You need an illegal to legal bridge. That's where crypto comes in.
So is it kind of the dark net stuff?
It can.
I saw that video now 4 times, and I don't know why, but like that comment always gets me. I always have to laugh at that one.
Can't be entirely dark, because otherwise, how do you buy normal stuff?
True.
And cash these days is used just much rarer. Mm-hmm. It's hard. It's like increasingly difficult to use cash. Some places you can't use cash at all.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. True.
So there's a forcing function for transactions that are illegal, quasi-legal, and in some cases legal. But it's got to have some. It's got to be both legal and illegal. It doesn't count otherwise. Otherwise, you simply it can't just be transactions within an illegal economy. Because how do you buy like food in a house or something? You must have a legal to illegal bridge. So where I see crypto as effectively as a replacement for cash.
So we kind of had the involvement now. When you saw the first clip and you saw the first thing where he said like, yeah, it's kind of used for illegal stuff, but like you need that bridge, and like maybe it's not that bad because we having basically the thing for cash. So we have Bitcoin used for illegal stuff, but we also need it to be used for legal stuff. Otherwise, it wouldn't have any value. And actually, like. It's great because like what MiCA said, like he's just saying money needs to be fungible, and what in my opinion what actually he is saying, he's just saying Bitcoin is money, and he also makes that point later on in the video that Bitcoin is basically solving for not having a central authority over that network. There is no throat that you can cut off, and so it's really interesting to see his involvement around Bitcoin and how he looks at it being money.
But not as a replacement for, as a primary, not as, I do not see crypto being the primary database. So now this is something I've taken being like, I'm being judgmental about crypto. And it's actually, I think there's a lot of things that are illegal that shouldn't be illegal.
He actually is changing his opinion on that one, so we'll leave that one because he's actually kind of moving on from that a little bit later on. But I still think that he has a hard time seeing Bitcoin as the sole universal ledger in like that we all using. He always describes this kind of ledger that we need to keep track of accounts and stuff like that, which we absolutely need and which absolutely 100% Bitcoin is. For some reason, he doesn't acknowledge that yet, but he comes very close already, and he's actually evolving his thinking and evolving kind of his mindset on that.
But so it's not as though I think that sometimes governments just have too many laws about that. They shouldn't have so many things that are illegal. Only an information system. So
it's also an interesting point of like there's too many illegal stuffs in the world, and sometimes you just need something that can be used in illegal activities, so you can actually make the purchase, because sometimes governments are wrong about things that are illegal. I love that point because it's 100% true. There's a lot of things that might be illegal today that might be legal tomorrow, which is completely normal and shouldn't be illegal for in the first place.
So I think it makes sense to support something that improves the quality of information with which we conduct the economy, and Bitcoin is a candidate for that. It does I think some things well, and it's obviously it's evolving, and there are additional things like Lightning being done on top of Bitcoin. But Bitcoin per se is mostly solving for scarcity, or rather solving for essentially having no throat to choke, decentralized. So there's no one who can be coerced in any way to empty their Bitcoin account. Well, I guess they could technically, but on an individual basis, but the system as a whole cannot. And it has an open ledger, which is also quite good. But transaction volume is low.
And this is actually the most interesting thing, because even though he sees all the problems that like Lightning and Fedimint and like other layers that solve that, he still sees to this day that it's decentralized, and there's no central authority over the network that could be coerced in playing along with whatever scheme that maybe governments and other institutions want to play in. And this is something, if someone gets that, he's very close to being like a massive Bitcoiner. Because if once you get that it's decentralized and secure and nobody can coerce the whole system, you are very close to finding out this is actually the money that we need. If we find now out, like we just had the news in the EU that the Russian funds are frozen. Now you can think about Russia, Ukraine, and all of those things, whatever you want to think, but fact remains, the Russia wealthy people and Russian governments that now say, hey, the funds that are frozen now couldn't have been frozen if we have it in Bitcoin and self-custody. This educational journey will be made by every single person on the planet Earth at some point. At some point, you're like, oh, okay, my uncle got his account frozen. Oh, no, wait, those protests actually make sense for me, and now their bank account is taken away. Like, why is that happening? There's so many small examples where someone is losing access to money, or someone that is losing access to his money, and then you get orange pilled for the first time ever, or red pilled, or whatever you want to call it, the moment before you get Bitcoin. Like, oh, okay, so I need something that nobody can coerce, that nobody can freeze my funds in. And that's the main pillar of Bitcoin. I always come back to the three main pillars that are in the Bitcoin. You have the first pillar in, hey, Bitcoin is a massive, massive store of value. So you will get rich from it, you get wealthy from it. But then there's also the second pillar of you get freedom. Nobody can take it away from you. If you have Tesla stock, for example, you might also get rich from that. You might also get rich from investing in something else. But it's only with Bitcoin where you get the wealthy side of it, the store of value side of it, and also the I get freedom aspect with it. I can make a transaction to you if you want or not. Not even the receiver can block a transaction, not a third party, nothing. If I have an address of someone, I can send him money and nobody can stop it. Only I can stop it. Not even the receiver of money can stop the transaction. He can throw it back at me. He can give me the money back. But that's the whole thing. That's all they could do. And he actually gets it. And this is, if I always try, if someone doesn't get Bitcoin, this is the main thing I want to make them understand, that you have to understand that Bitcoin is the only thing on planet Earth that nobody can ever coerce or change. And this is the main thing I think that Elon Musk is also slowly getting. And more importantly, I think what he is also saying at the end, because like this live stream wasn't that good, at the end saying
currencies, if you will, that are physics based. So energy is the true currency. This is why I said Bitcoin is based on energy. You can't legislate energy. You can't just pass a law and suddenly have a lot of energy. It's very difficult to generate energy, or especially to harness energy in a useful way to do useful work. So I think that probably.
And this is actually, I think, the end point from this video, because you always have a big people that have a lot going on in their life, like in Elon Musk. You have a lot of different things going on, and Bitcoin might not be the number one priority. We are like you and me. We are an outlier. We make Bitcoin the main thing in our world. And this is very much true. And I think this is very much a good thing that we're doing, at least in my opinion. Of course, I think so. And I think an Elon Musk or even like a Jensen Huang from NVIDIA, they have a lot of other things, and their number one priority might be shareholders, might be other intentions that we don't even know about, might be some like other small priorities that they have. And seeing them embracing Bitcoin and seeing Bitcoin and that what it really is, money based on energy and money that cannot be coerced, is huge. And now we have the whole new thing, and I think Michael Saylor really sums it up in the best way. We have a whole new thing where you can see that Bitcoin will be the new treasury for nation states. And I have a really important point here, that you basically shouldn't sell your Bitcoin to all those nation states. But let's get it one step at a time. We have here, and this is 24 glorious seconds that I think Saylor sums it up perfectly.
Bitcoin represents digital capital. That network is $2 trillion today. It's going to be $20 trillion in 4 to 8 years. It's going to be $200 trillion in 20 years. Then it's going to grow faster than every other asset in the world. It's going to continue to grow. The United States should own it.
100%. And this is the point I think the nation states are really getting now. And I collected so many different pieces now, and I will go with you over all of them to kind of show you how far we are already in the nation state race. I don't think that people really understand it, how hugely deep we are already into the Bitcoin nation state race from just having Bitcoin as something that is used as for criminal activities, that is seen as something like that and has that FUD around it. And then maybe the first publicly traded company in 2020 bought it. And now actually we have Bitcoin as a nation state race that that the nation states really, really wanted. And I don't know, we've seen now I will just I'll just jump through them briefly to give an overview. We have the Pakistan Prime Minister in the United Nations saying, hey, you should adopt Bitcoin and crypto, and you should really embrace those new technologies. Then you have, Pakistan is huge. Then you have people that might have some inside information, might have some good views on that say, hey, China will buy Bitcoin. And China is actually, I think, secretly way bigger on Bitcoin that we might actually know about. Then, of course, we have Texas, the first US state to buy Bitcoin. We have so many positive now incentives and now so many positive inputs and impulses from nation states that they are buying Bitcoin, and they are actually already doing that. It's not a speculation anymore. This is the big thing. I'm kind of always I'm always fascinated by it. I just was in Abu Dhabi. We have the UAE saying, hey, we are buying a bunch of Bitcoin. And so we have so many things going on that I find it hugely almost disturbing that you have such a negative and bearish sentiment out there. And I think there is something going on that is a little bit bigger than what we are seeing. There is something, I wanted to show this to you guys at the very end, but I will show it to you guys right now because I think it's very important that we talk about that. Samson Mao said, and I 100% agree, everyone wants your Bitcoin. They are bear posting to scare you into submission and selling. All of this is happening just as Bitcoin steps through the doorway into the traditional financial system to become the new reserve asset of the world. Now, what Rajat said was also brilliant. People want you to be fearful, so you sell. They feel stupid because they didn't buy at a lower price. Now they're trying to convince you that they were right all along and you should sell to buy back lower. Don't give away your Bitcoin. You will never get the same amount of sats or Bitcoin ever again. And this is the point I was trying to make. Basically, almost actually every single episode that I'm doing is, if you are selling Bitcoin, if you are kind of not paying attention to Bitcoin and you're like, oh, okay, it's kind of bearish sentiments, I'm selling a few of them or I'm selling all of them, oh no, I buy this other thing to get more Bitcoin, you will end up with less Bitcoin than you started with because you've sold, and it might just run away from you. You always sell in the bottom. That's my retail always sells at the bottom. And that's kind of my my takeaway from that. And now, if we go back to what's actually going on, Pakistan was an interesting for me. If you think about the Pakistan Prime Minister, I will show you this. I will show you this speech that he gave. He is not the nation that says, "Oh, we are buying 100 million or trillion or billions worth of Bitcoin." He is saying he's open to it, and so. In the game theory of Bitcoin nation-state adoption, there are basically three nations. So there's the neutral nations. There's the Pakistani nations that says, hey, we should embrace technology. It's great that it comes. It's something that we should look forward, and it's great that it's great that we have this technology and people should actually embrace it. This is like the neutral position of being positioned into Bitcoin, being positioned into crypto. Then we have the positive ones. We have the ones that say like, hey, we really think this will be the future and we want a piece of that. There's the people that say, hey, we are buying Bitcoin. This is the UAE, this is the USA, with Texas now being the first state that actually buys Bitcoin, and the president talking about it. And the president's sons, I think this is also in my tabs in there. We have the president's sons with, how's it called? American Bitcoin or Bitcoin American, something like that, that they now have over 5,000 Bitcoin. They're now the 20th biggest company that holds Bitcoin, or the company that is has the 20th biggest Bitcoin holdings on their balance sheet. I think that's the right way to say it. So this is all just happening, and I'm showing you now what the Pakistan Prime Minister says to that.
We have successfully implemented deep-rooted structural macroeconomic reforms, modernized and broadened our taxation system, intensified efforts to mobilize productive investment, and embraced digitization, AI, and crypto as the tools of the future. Strategic partnerships, including
And this is always, I know it definitely annoys me, and I probably annoys some of you also. It is not crypto, it's Bitcoin, but that's a whole another story. And this is a nation that isn't on the verge of like buying millions and billions worth of Bitcoin. They're the neutral kind of position into that space. Now we have, by the way, Pakistan isn't small at all. I haven't heard really anything about Pakistan in my life. I was just aware of Pakistan, so I looked it up just so you guys know about it. It is almost as big as the USA from a population standpoint. I think the USA has 380 or 320 million people, somewhere around that, under 400 definitely. And Pakistan has 250. So not that far away, but obviously when you look at the gross domestic product of Pakistan, it's very different to what the USA has. So like in population, somewhat similar, but not in the economic power and what they can do for the world, obviously. Now, I want to show you guys this also because I found it interesting, and there's a really interesting perspective to saying what is the game theory behind Bitcoin.
That the country, I think it's pretty obvious that the countries that are adversarial to the U.S. will ultimately buy Bitcoin and potentially other coins, but I would say at least start with Bitcoin. And so I think there's going to be an arms race, right? And there'll be like Dr. Strangelove, strategic mineshaft gap, right? Like it's going to be a real race. And as you know, there's only 21 million. And if a bunch of people all want to buy 1 million each, it's not enough to go around, right? And there again, that's why I'm so bullish, because there's just not enough Bitcoins to satisfy countries' desires. I think the U.S. has 200,000 Bitcoins just, from confiscations, kind of a random.
And China has roughly the same, I think.
Yeah, and China has roughly the same. No, no problem seeing them wanting to buy 1 million Bitcoins.
And we are about to see something really spectacular. If you think about the Bitcoin, it being as scarce as it is, and so many hodlers like us not selling it no matter what is happening. So if Bitcoin shoots up tomorrow to like $1 million or $2 million, I would not know what to really buy from it. Maybe there's some small thing that like, oh yeah, like you get the dream house that you always wanted for 1% of your portfolio. Yeah, okay, like 1% of your Bitcoin. Yeah, okay, like maybe you buy it. Then you maybe have some dream car that you always wanted. You kind of like, you kind of want to say like, okay, I want to buy that and buy that, buy that. But if Bitcoin really shoots up, like you're holding on to most of it. And this is very different to any other asset, because if the gold price shoots up by 10x or 100x, people will mine for more gold. That's just natural. But you can never get more Bitcoin, no matter what you pay for it, no matter how much energy you put in there, and no matter how much money you put into that, you can never find or create or discover or whatever you want to say more Bitcoin. And this is the really interesting point that the Bitcoin arms race is all about. You can buy Bitcoin. but it's a finite supply. It's only the 21 million. And so you have to put in more energy to get it. And what if another nation state also wants it now? We have the UAE, we have Texas with USA, we have China, I think personally, is somehow buying Bitcoin. If they admit it or not, I don't know. If they really don't, if they only have the Bitcoin that they kind of like we know that they have, I don't think that's true. Like I obviously don't know, but like the arms race is already starting, and already people are lining up to that, and we are at not even 90K per Bitcoin. That's freaking insane. All the things that are going on, and we are at like what, 89,000 US dollars. This is insanity for me that this is even the case. 86,000, I think. Oh yeah, like 86. We were before at 87,000. So this is really crazy for me that we are at such low prices. Bitcoin is such a tiny asset compared to all the rest of it. And still, people are saying like all the bearish things, and so this is just really, really crazy for me. Now, I told you guys already about Texas, but let's look at this a little bit closer. Texas has become just about like 2 or 3 weeks ago the first U.S. state to buy Bitcoin. Yes, they bought with BlackRock. Yes, it's paper Bitcoin, not real Bitcoin, because they bought it with the BlackRock ETF and not with self-custody and all of that. But they bought Bitcoin. And I think they are approved to buy $10 million worth of Bitcoin. And they now bought the first $5 million worth of Bitcoin, which was really interesting. And then something else is happening, which is really cool to see, because the political level is doing those Bitcoin deals, now the public eye has to talk about it. Now the media that maybe before did not want to cover it, they have to cover it now. They have to talk about it now. And this is really interesting to see. I think Pete Rizzo was saying it. Just in national cable TV explains why Texas bought $5 million worth of Bitcoin. This is really interesting and really cool to see. I hate that I cannot see this in Austria. I watch the news of Austria almost every single day because I want to keep up with like what's going on with the country that I live in, and just to see in what direction they're going. And seeing that happening now in Texas is freaking awesome.
A major first step to quote.
Texas making a controversial money move that other states may soon follow. They are putting millions of taxpayer dollars into a high-risk, potentially high-reward reserve, and they are betting big on Bitcoin. NewsNation's Xavier Walton, he joins us live from Dallas. So, Xavier, this is a first-of-its-kind experiment, but likely not the last we're going to be seeing.
Kelly, good morning. Yeah, this is an expensive experiment, if you will, but Texas making history essentially and making waves while doing it. The Lone Star.
And now you see kind of the wording of the mainstream media. They're saying high risk. They're saying expensive experiment. They're saying all this buzzwords that you kind of have to say if you're mainstream media. But no, it's not high risk. It's high volatility, maybe. It depends on what you compare it with, because Bitcoin's volatility is actually no longer that high compared to other things going on in the world. And so volatility is something very different to risk. If you have high volatility, yes, you can experience drops and you can experience high increases of prices and price decreases in a short amount of time. But this is not a risk. A risk is if you think about stocks, it's very easy to think about a risk. So what is the risk to, let's say, strategy? The risk to strategy would be Saylor not being there anymore, and the management team saying, we don't want that Bitcoin strategy anymore. We want to focus on the business intelligence sides, and we abandoning the business, the Bitcoin side of it. That's, for example, a risk to if you're buying strategy right now. It's just like, I don't think this will happening, but it's just like one of the risks that you have to be concerned concerned with if you are investing in something like that. So what are those risks, the fundamental risks to Bitcoin? Yeah, what if the cryptography is breaking? What if we overlooked something in the code and then something is no longer working? What if? And so those are actual risks to Bitcoin. And I don't find any real legitimate risks to Bitcoin that I can think of that actually could happen. Of course, I can think of reasons why Bitcoin could fail, but they're so far out on the probability curve that I don't even want to mention them, that I don't even want to really consider them, because the probability of that happening is so low. And so when they are saying high risk, what they're really meaning is high volatility. This is all that they are kind of meaning to say in that regard. And so expensive experiment, high volatility, this is people that kind of have to say that to, what should I say, to hedge themselves. They are news reporters.
State launching the first strategic Bitcoin reserve in the United States, buying $5 million worth of Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin prices have skyrocketed this year. We've been paying close attention to that, but partly driven by the Trump administration embracing crypto's expansion. So Texas lawmakers approved $10 million for a state-run crypto reserve. The acting comptroller, Kelly Hancock, calls it a major first step to, quote, strengthen the state's balance sheet, saying Texas is building a secure digital reserve.
Our goal for implementation is simple: build a secure reserve that strengthens the state's balance sheet. Texas is leading the way once again, and we are proud to do it. Kelly Hancock, acting Texas comptroller. And this is really important. I just saw that in the I thing. Fong Li is as strong as Saylor. I've now listened to a couple of, like Fong Li, for the people that don't know, CEO of strategy. Michael Saylor is no longer the CEO. He's the executive chairman. But Fong Li is really strong. I've listened to now, like, let's say, half an hour, 1 hour of interviews all combined of Fong Li. So not a lot, like only short amounts of clips from him. But what I've heard so far from him, I'm super impressed. This guy has been in the school of Michael Saylor since a long time. I can see that. I think he's at strategy since 10 years now. And he's now doing with Saylor this Bitcoin thing since 5 years. Now, I think it's over 5 years already. Fong Li, someone not to underestimate, I would say, like 100%. I agree with you, Mike. And so, yeah, let's continue with the video. It has a little bit more.
And leading the way, critics, on the other hand, and some economists are warning about Bitcoin's volatility, high energy use, and limited transparency.
This is going.
Limited transparency. What? Yes, if they're asking, if critics are asking for proof of reserves, I'm all for that. I don't know what they're meaning with limited transparency in Bitcoin. But yeah, if this is an ask for proof of reserves, I'm all for that. But otherwise, there is no limited transparency in Bitcoin. Like this is freaking insane.
Going to cause the everyday Joe and Jane to wind up paying more taxes disproportionately because their transactions are out in the open and visible.
Advocates say, reserves future focus.
Now, I have a very strong opinion on that. I think the states and the nation states, the states from the USA, all like the countries from the EU, like UAE, like whatever you want to point to, all those institutions or states that are going to be aggressively adopting Bitcoin, they will be able to lower taxes or even remove some of the taxes completely, because they will have a huge amount of wealth built into there. And then the lower taxes, the lower kind of the thing that they are taking from the population, which long term will mean more businesses, more intelligent capital will come to that place and to that nation. So actually doing something innovative like adopting a Bitcoin standard is the most important thing that you can possibly do. It is the only true move if you want to be financially independent as a state, as a country, as a nation, whatever you are. And so claiming that it is bad for the taxpayer is very short-sighted. And you have to kind of pick a specific situation where a taxpayer might pay more in the short term, which isn't the case. Like there's no situation I can think of that this is happening, but you really have to be creative in like making those situations, again, on the probability curve, very out there. It's again, insane for me that someone could think something like that.
Focused move for Texas. The CEO of the Texas Blockchain Council tells us this is about positioning Texas for the future, not just watching the
The creation and implementation of a strategic Bitcoin reserve is fundamentally about positioning Texas for the future, 100%. We are not just watching the future of finance unfold, we are actively participating in it, and we are the first to do so. Amazing, like 100%. I can agree to that, like 100%. And this is something very important for the future to consider.
The future of finance unfold. And Kelly, other states, you mentioned this sort of right off the top, other states like Arizona, New Hampshire have also approved similar strategic funds, but Texas, the Lone Star State, is the first to actually buy Bitcoin.
Yeah, and why is that, Xavier? Why has this initiative started there?
Yeah, Kelly, that is a great question. Already, Texas is a crypto powerhouse, recognized not just here in the United States, but around the globe. And Texas is actually home to at least 27 Bitcoin mining facilities, more than anywhere else in the world, according to the Texas Blockchain Council. But that boom, when you start to look at it, it started back in 2021 when China banned crypto mining. And
remember 2021? Who was there in 2021 when China banned Bitcoin mining? This was an incredible moment in time. 2021 would have been such a bigger bull run if it wouldn't have been for Elon Musk and China cutting the bull run short. I think so. I personally think that those two powers to be kind of cut the bull run in 2021 kind of short. So the first thing that happened is like Elon Musk saying like, wow, it's great, and then saying like, I don't like it that much, which kind of made that thing happening where it shot up like 20-30% and then like shot down the same amount again, so it didn't like really matter at all. But then China made something. They completely tried to completely ban Bitcoin mining in their country. Now there's still, to this day, I think at least 10% or maybe even more Bitcoin mining going on in China, so it was never fully going out of the country. But what China actually did is first decentralize the network even further. Before China banned Bitcoin mining, China had like 60-70% of the whole mining infrastructure in their country. Now they have like 10%. So they decentralized the Bitcoin mining infrastructure. I think the biggest Bitcoin mining country is now the USA with, let's say, 30 or 40. And then you have to go back to seeing what is actually going on with the Bitcoin mining. Now, Texas was a huge winner in that sphere, because when a mining facility shuts down, they can just take their stuff and move it across. They can move it to America, they can move it to Europe, they can move it wherever they want to move it, where it's still allowed. And so that's what happened. The mining hash rate dropped significantly within weeks, and then shot up again within weeks again. And it didn't even bother, because the miners just went from here to somewhere else. So China only decentralized the network further. And this is what he's kind of referring. Since then, Texas was a huge receiver of all the Bitcoin mining equipment, of all the Bitcoin mining power. And then since then, they're kind of pushing forward. There's also a lot of companies in Texas. There are a lot of headquarters in Texas for Bitcoin stuff. So a huge hub. I still have to go to Texas. I haven't been, but I hear a lot of great things from Texas.
Texas opened the door with Governor Greg Abbott, saying on social media, quote, Texas is open for crypto business. Fast forward to now, Texas has only spent half of the lawmakers approved $5 million of a $10 million plan, which is really just a small slice of the state's $338 billion budget. But it's a huge move. Many certainly will be watching, Kelly.
Yeah, a big bet. We will be. Xavier, thank you.
Thank you for watching.
And this is kind of the thing that is going on. And so we have Texas, we have, I think, secretly China. We have very openly the UAE buying a bunch of Bitcoin. Now they have, 500 million worth Bitcoin worth in their Abu Dhabi Investment Council. And this is another really interesting thing. The UAE is buying Bitcoin. Now, again, as David pointed out here, it's not actual Bitcoin, it's paper Bitcoin. It's always I always criticize that, because I think also nation states, also institutions should hold their own Bitcoin. They should also self-custody their Bitcoin, not only because it's a great signal to send out there, but just because it's a great practice for them to be sovereign. If Texas buys Bitcoin with BlackRock, they are not as sovereign as they would if they have Bitcoin themselves on self-custody. Someone else could take it away from them. The Federal Reserve can take it away from them. BlackRock can take it away from them. Obviously, it's like complicated with the power struggle, like Texas, Federal Reserve, BlackRock, and all of that. But they could remove all of that with just like holding their own keys. But now to Abu Dhabi. Abu Dhabi also bought $500 million dollars worth of Bitcoin is leading kind of the way into that sphere. Now, just some information around that. They increased their holdings in IBITs. Now they have like 8 million shares. This was interesting what Ben Scott from Bloomberg kind of said.
Long term.
We know in terms of their holdings and when they added to this position.
Yeah, so you can see that they've more than tripled their position right in the weeks and months up to the sell-off. So, it hit a record high in October, and we can see that they've tripled their position during the third quarter. They disclosed a position at the end of September that was worth around $520 million. And we can see that this is really going to be a part of their portfolio going forward. They're saying that they want to diversify it, and they really see it as the digital equivalent of gold.
Yeah, this is the thing. Like, they really are more and more bullish on Bitcoin. And now the thing that I was really interested in, because Saylor has been now in the UAE and has like Kuwait, Abu Dhabi, and all those states in there. He has made his round there, and Abu Dhabi, I think, was his last station of the tour, and he made his entrance there, and he kind of explained what he did and who he talked to. And I think they are all now, first of all, getting really pumped up about strategy. I think he made a huge and a great pitch that I actually want to analyze also on the live stream one day, to like why strategy is so important and why people, and especially also nation states and funds, should buy strategy. But also he pitched the nation states and the sovereign wealth funds, Bitcoin itself also. And this is just like a video that I wanted to throw in there, because I think it shows how huge of a wave of monetary energy will come into Bitcoin in the coming weeks and months.
The two things about the Middle East that stick out, they like technology and they like money. And so if you believe in digital transformation and digital technology, and if you're interested in money, then the digital transformation of money and digital transformation of capital markets and equity and digital banking ought to be very interesting. So I've been meeting with, I've been obviously meeting with all the sovereign wealth funds. I've been meeting with, I don't know, 50, 100 different investors, hedge funds, family office investors that are interested. I've been meeting with banks and people that own banks or run banks. I've been meeting with fund managers that offer financial products. I've been meeting with regulators in every jurisdiction.
And so I think what has been happening in the UAE is not just Saylor. It's not just one guy. Like, they have been in there since longer, but Saylor is for me kind of the public figure of like showing how huge the interest in the UAE is, and seeing all the sovereign wealth funds and all the money from the Middle East coming in. I think this will also put pressure on the USA, will put pressure on China, and hopefully eventually where I live will also put pressure in Europe to buy more Bitcoin. And now I overlooked that comment actually. DK said the feeling of 2070, I would love to experience it again. I truly believe that there will be a time in the next like 12 to 18 or maybe 12 to 18, maybe like 24 months, where huge amounts of money is flowing into Bitcoin, and the bearish sentiment is all of a sudden magically gone. Like, it's Bitcoin always does what you don't expect it to do. And now 2025, we really expected it to kind of rip up and like does all those crazy things, but it didn't, obviously. And now obviously in hindsight only. And so I think we will have a very surprising moment where everyone is super bearish and everything is kind of like very bad in the Bitcoin market, and everyone is kind of dropping out and saying like, oh, I don't want a Bitcoin anymore, I want to do this and all. And at that very moment, there will be something happening, and all of a sudden Bitcoin is ripping for like weeks and months ahead. So it's not a prediction, it's not a speculation or anything like that. It's just that I believe we will have at some point in the future this huge wave up of Bitcoin, and it will be crazy to see. So I think that we will have that 2017 feeling again somewhere in Bitcoin. It's not completely gone, but of course Bitcoin has been growing up, it has been maturing, so it acts differently, and it going up 50% or 100% is a lot harder now than previously. I would guess so. So now we have one more news on the nation state side is like what I mentioned already before. Trump family backed American Bitcoin. I think Mike also said it. It's in partnership with Hut 8 Mining. They're having over 5,000 Bitcoin now. But more importantly, the banks. I want to talk about the banks because there's been a huge shift, and there is something really interesting that I have seen with Michael Saylor, Fong Lee, and JP Morgan that I want to talk about. But before, let's talk about Vanguard. Vanguard in 2024 said the following thing: Bitcoin isn't the store of value. We will never offer ETFs. This is basically what they said. And now they started trading Bitcoin, and the ETF kind of got approved on their platforms, which is, I think, 11 trillion. Is that right? 11 trillion. Like, they have a huge platform and a huge inflow of money that could happen there. But let's just see the kind of interesting comments that he made in 2024, not that long ago. He bent the knee within like 1 year. And when we had Vanguard, if you remember back in 2024, when the news broke that Vanguard is not offering the Bitcoin ETF, this was huge. Like, all of the people in Bitcoin said like, let's get rid of Vanguard. Let's just focus on other banking systems that don't make that, and like actually offering the Bitcoin ETFs. And there has been like so many bank notices from Vanguard saying like, bye people, we no longer want banking that doesn't offer Bitcoin products. And I think the pushback has been so big that the Bitcoin community actually, how should I say it, bullied them into offering the Bitcoin ETF. It's just like too much money on the table to not do that. And so this was huge for me to see, and it was just a matter of time. But let's see what they said a year ago and now what they're saying today.
Spot Bitcoin ETFs. Question came in, hey, we know you're not offering one. Have you changed your mind? What would it take for you to change your mind? We don't plan to, and we don't we're not going to change our minds around this.
You're going to change your mind just 1 year later.
Unless the asset class changes. Why? First of all, we don't believe it belongs. Like a Bitcoin ETF belongs in a long-term portfolio. If someone's saving for their retirement, it's a speculative asset.
That's exactly it.
And the funds that we offer invest in asset classes that actually have underlying cash flow. So like we mentioned stocks, you're buying the forward earnings of a company.
That's right.
And that bond, right,
has coupon and principal payments.
Yeah, you're going to pay me back and you're going to pay me something for lending you the money.
Exactly.
Right. So they both can be valued. And that's for us, we understand why.
The age-old argument, if it doesn't have a cash flow, how can I value it? you always have that. It's like when someone says like, oh, but Bitcoin does not have a cash flow. Like how can it be anything? Like how can I value Bitcoin if it does not have a cash flow? If nobody does anything with it, like how can I value it? Yeah, because you don't see the value of money. Money should not have a cash flow. And by the way, I really like hate that argument of like, oh, it doesn't have a cash flow, like it cannot give me dividends, like I cannot invest in it. Bitcoin has cash flow. If you buy Bitcoin now for like $5,000 and it will be worth $50,000 in 10 years, you can sell it and you have $45,000 of cash flow. Like that's cash flow. Like you can sell it and you get more cash back than you put in there. This is by definition for me cash flow. I know people would be now mad at me, like there's a different definition for cash flow, but the name of the game is not like to get a salary every month. The name of the game is capital accumulation. That's the real thing that I'm at least focused on. And it's kind of sad to see that the Vanguard guy doesn't get that.
Why they would,
or he doesn't want to get it. I think that's more the case. He tries to figure out some argument why he should be against Bitcoin, and like he's fishing for arguments against it, basically.
Eyes up in a portfolio and the role they will play, and we can model them. Something like Bitcoin is just too volatile, and it's not a store of value. It hasn't been. And it's very volatile. When stocks got hammered in recent crises, that Bitcoin went right with them.
Okay, so like a volatile asset cannot be a store of value. How? This is always what I'm thinking. Like they are basically politicians, so they're trying to appeal to a very wide audience. They're not making expert statements. They're not trying to dig deep and actually thinking of like what does make sense and what doesn't make sense. They're playing the political game of, hey, we made that decision because our agenda does not want to have Bitcoin, because we have a different agenda. Now let's put some spokesperson in there to make some political statements so we can justify with really stupid arguments why we did the thing that we actually did because of an agenda. That's the whole thing that is happening. And it's for me, because I know how strong Bitcoin is, it's funny, but me imagining that there are people that listen to this guy, believing his lies and saying, okay, that's why I cannot invest in Bitcoin. That's where it gets sad for me. So that's like one eye is laughing and one eye is kind of sad when I hear those things.
And so it is speculative, really tough to think about how it belongs in a long-term portfolio.
And now today we have world's second largest asset manager, Vanguard, opens its platform to Bitcoin and crypto ETFs, Bloomberg. So we have December 1st, 2025, just like 1.5 years after the bank bent the knee, as every single bank will bend their knees to Bitcoin. Now we have Queen Finsoff is also here. Great that you have been around. Last female standing. I hope you're not the last female. I think you have from the full viewership around like 8% of female listeners and watchers on the podcast and on the whole channel, also including the clips. Actually, the shorts are actually more female. So like if you think about long form content and the shorts content that I put out there, shorts are actually higher female than Bitcoin. So I hope you are not the last female standing here on my channel. You can also borrow against it to buy cash flow. Yes, that is actually very true. Having capital gives you all the option. So you don't need to have capital that gives you dividends or gives you some kind of paycheck. You can have capital that you can borrow against it, and you can make things with that happening. So you can sell it, you can borrow against it, you can borrow against it and buy cash flow assets. You can make all sorts of things. So claiming just like, oh, I don't want Bitcoin just because it doesn't have cash flow is a very short-sighted argument, in my opinion, at least. And so now I want to really get to the banking section, because it's fun to see. And here's also now the guy coming in, Fong Li, that we talked about before, and he is saying something that I want you to remember for a later tweet that I will show you guys.
The whole Bitcoin. Just a little bit in terms of other types of businesses that Strategy could be involved with. Lending of Bitcoin, it reached a record high in the third quarter. Why hasn't Strategy gotten involved?
Yeah, we run a very simple business, right? I've been doing this for 10 years now, 5 years with Bitcoin. We buy and we hold Bitcoin. I do think over the course of the next year, and I'm quite excited about it, traditional finance entering the Bitcoin world. Companies have made announcements, Citibank, Morgan Stanley, and others, big real banks are going to offer custody service, lending service, and staking and otherwise. I think when they enter that space and we have different counterparties, it's something we would consider, and I think would be enthusiastic about.
And now the question comes that I want you to pay attention to.
Well, to that point, Fong, I mean, have you held any preliminary talks with lending platforms or other potential partners to handle those logistics?
We've had a lot of constructive discussions. They've primarily been of the, hey, we're thinking about offering Bitcoin services, custody, exchange, lending, et cetera. You're the largest corporate holder of Bitcoin in the world. What's your advice to us? And can we work together? And to the extent there are large, U.S.-based banks that have a lot of history and a strong balance sheet, we're very excited to partner with them.
Now, we also have the news, just like putting the picture together, we also have the news here with JP Morgan filing to issue Bitcoin-backed structured notes linked to BlackRock's IBIT ETF, offering up to like 1.5x leverage. Then also, just to give a full picture on like what's going on, Fong Li talking about they already have been in talks with huge banks with like a lot of history. Then JP Morgan doing more and more Bitcoin things, even though I forgot his name. How is the guy called from JP Morgan that is very famous and like always makes very bad statements around Bitcoin? I forgot his name, but basically then now MiCA Saylor posting a picture in front of, I think in New York City it is, guess the bank. And now Hermes said, Grok, analyze this picture and tell me what bank he is at or what building he is in. And Grok said, based on the view overlooking Central Park with 432 Park Avenue, prominent on the right and Hudson Yards on the left, he is at JP Morgan Chase Global Headquarters at 270 Park Avenue in New York City. Oh, thanks so much, Eamon. Yeah, like it's Jamie Dimon. And so I'm not a speculator. I just put Feng Li talking about that they're already in talks with big names and with like a lot of history in there. We now see JP Morgan being closer and closer to the Bitcoin network, and they're actually bending the knee to the clients saying, hey, we want Bitcoin. And now Michael Saylor at JP Morgan, the bank, something is happening. And so I don't want to speculate. I'm not in the speculation business and saying like, oh, like I know this will happen. And like, because of those 4 connections, like this is what's gonna be the future. And JP Morgan will now partner up with Saylor. But the main thing for me is it is very clear that the traditional banking system is slowly waking up to Bitcoin. And they are waking up to Bitcoin where we have to kind of see that if you don't adopt Bitcoin, if you don't actually embrace this technology, you will be left behind. And so for me, Bitcoin isn't against banking. For me, Bitcoin is actually against central banking. And there's a very big difference. I see that all the time, that like, oh, banks are the enemy and all of that. Yeah, to extent. I also don't like banks. Like I always have very bad experiences with banks for some reason, probably because they see all my things going to Bitcoin exchanges. But the real enemy is the central bank. And there's nothing wrong with banking on top of Bitcoin. There's nothing wrong with like Bitcoin having financial services on top of that. I don't think that the traditional banking system will be very dominant if they're not waking up very fast to that in that world, in that Bitcoin world. But they could be, and they could play a significant role. Because what happens if there's no longer central banking? What is happening if like the US dollar and the euro and the yen and like all the currencies in the world are actually imploding? Banking system could still be around. There's still a need. Like I'm pushing self-custody. I'm pushing like Microseed, the Bitcoin way, all those great things. But if we are honest, most people are not self-custodying their Bitcoin, and they want to have someone that helps them along the journey. They said like, hey, I'll guide you along on the journey and I'll hold your hand with you doing self-custody. Or they actually want someone else to take self-custody for them. So they say, hey, here's my Bitcoin, you take them. And then they charge you a fee on top of that. That system is banking. What, for example, Unchained is doing is banking. Even what the Bitcoin way is doing to a certain degree of like having a service out there that helps you how to store your Bitcoin and helps you being your own master is to a certain extent a service in the financial space, which is not a banking service because they don't hold your Bitcoin, but something in that line. So like having financial services on top of Bitcoin isn't necessarily bad. And so we need that. We need financial services in Bitcoin. It's not just Bitcoin. We need the financial services built on top of sound money, it being Bitcoin. Central banking is the thing that we are gonna against, and not the banks in itself. Yeah, like everyone is a speculator 100%. And the Fed 100%. Now we also see, and I think this is just like a small news, but like I think we should mention it, that Nasdaq announced Michael Saylor's strategy will remain in the Nasdaq 100. I think this was it's what Pete Rizzo is always like huge news, but it's not that huge news. Like it just like we say in Austria, "You're no not ne," something like that. It's very hard for me to speak Austrian when I speak English, actually. But like we are seeing that this is logical, and I think they will also be included in the S&P 500. They will be in all other indexes, and Michael Saylor being at those banks and being the advocate that he is, and in those corporations and in those circles is really valuable also long term for Bitcoin. And so this is really interesting. Now there's another sector that is completely changing. We are seeing now mainstream people mainstream people that are buying Bitcoin and are actually defending it in the real world. People that haven't been into Bitcoin before, that have no like real association or kind of connection to Bitcoin, but they really want to be also saying like, hey, Bitcoin is a good idea. And I saw this tweet from Joe Nakamoto about Jimmy Carr. Like Jimmy Carr, like I love his comedy. Like I watch it on a regular basis, like once a month, I don't know, once every second week or something like that. He is really funny. I love how he does comedy. And I also watched like 1 or 2 podcasts of his. Really great guy. Now, he is talking about Bitcoin here, and I want to just show you this, guys.
That idea of going, why don't we have a sovereign wealth fund? Why have we not got one in the UK? We're sitting talking on the day of the budget, and that would strike me as quite a radical thing to do. There are certain things that should belong to everyone. And one of those things is the oil and gas that sit under the UK, and also the wind farms around the coast. All of that money goes to the Crown. Why? That should belong to everyone. The mobile phone masts, that'd be a good thing that you go, okay, I'm not a socialist. I'm not even for state capitalism, but the idea of going, well, that should belong to everyone. We should own that, and we should, and I'm not saying maybe we should restart the mining industry, but I would not mind it if our government said, yeah, we're going to mine for Bitcoins. Our power stations they don't do anything at night, so we're going to mine for Bitcoins. Great. That idea of going, why don't we have a sovereign?
And this is actually something I've been hammering since a very long time. I got it asked in Abu Dhabi. I was with Stefan Livera and someone else like who interviewed both of us, like me and Stefan Livera, someone interviewed. And he was asking me like, what do we need for major Bitcoin mass adoption in the future? And I said, we need people outside of the Bitcoin ecosystem talking about Bitcoin. This is the top of the funnel. If you think about the funnel, Bitcoin content creators like me or like other Bitcoin content creators in the space that have podcasts or live streams or whatever they have, they are not the top of the funnel. We are kind of the entrance to the rabbit hole. I almost like an elevator down the rabbit hole to go deeper, to go beyond, to see the bigger picture in that. And I hope I can give some people some perspective on Bitcoin
New
and
gold
showing
Fine.
that.
Do something radical.
Oh, no, the video played itself. And doing that is very important for me. And this is kind of the mission that I'm on. But there has to be a top of the funnel that where on a non-Bitcoin podcast, a non-Bitcoin podcast host is asking the guest a non-Bitcoin question and the guest answers with Bitcoin. This is where we really get going in the mainstream. This is where we really have mainstream adoption, because now Bitcoin is in a very subtle moment, in a very subtle way, being introduced to the mass public. Because Jimmy Carr, the podcast that he made here, I don't even know which platform it was on, was most definitely in the crowd was maybe 1% Bitcoiners, maybe 2% Bitcoiners. So 98% of the audience there was not Bitcoiners, and they got Bitcoin exposure. Now here, we probably have the other way around, where a few percent are here and they don't have Bitcoin. By the way, say hi if you don't have Bitcoin and you're watching this show. Maybe there's not even one in here, but maybe like one got in there and like dropped in and dropped out and like was curious and stuff like that. But like I would guess like 99%, probably even higher than that, probably 100% that are in here now live, that are watching this or listening to this, they have Bitcoin. And so me saying all the Bitcoin things is great. And it's like takes people down the Bitcoin rabbit hole, clears things up. We can look at the world from a Bitcoin lens. But him saying like Bitcoin in a non-Bitcoin podcast, non-Bitcoin host, non-Bitcoin questions, all of that is really giving a signal to the world. So this is something I just found very interesting to see, and is something that we kind of have to just see. Just in, yeah, just in. The Pete Rizzo, I don't know. The just in, it's super fun. Jimmy Carr is a smart guy, 100%. Like he is a smart fella. I think comedians in general are usually quite smart. You have to be really freaking smart to make observations and to make jokes around that observations. I just found that the comedians that I watch, when I see podcasts of them, I'm like, oh wait, like he's a freaking smart guy. So I love comedians. They have something special, you know. Now, I found that news really random. I don't know if have you seen this, guys? Also, just in, like Ed Stanley said, it's just in right now. It came in. Netflix announces new Bitcoin comedy. One attempt remaining, starring Jennifer Garner. So I don't know Jennifer Garner at all. So like I don't know who she is. 2 executives discover the Bitcoin they won on a cruise is now worth millions, but they've forgotten the password. I bring that up because I really think that we need more movies, songs, content stuffs that is around Bitcoin, but not saying Bitcoin at all. Like having the concept of Bitcoin being explained. I just saw today a live stream of Ratoshi. He was on my podcast. He made a great Bitcoin book that doesn't mention Bitcoin at all. Like there's not one word about Bitcoin in there, but it explains the concept. It's a sci-fi thing about Bitcoin. Michael Sullivan, great book. There, I think Bitcoin is mentioned in there, but still, it's not a Bitcoin educational book in itself. It's a how do you say that? It's a science fictional story. It's not a like educational book. It's something where people get educated through that more easily. And so this is really, really, really important, I think, to have those mainstream outlets to actually make Bitcoin content pieces. Now, I'm not a big fan of Netflix, if I have to be freaking honest. If I watch their shows, I'm like, there's a lot of things that I don't agree with, and a lot of things that they're doing, and they are almost like political now. But it's just really interesting. Now, the one thing I really want you to remember, I said it in the middle, I want to say it again, is don't get shaken out. I see a lot of people that ask me, hey, like, would you sell now to buy back in later? Like, would you sell a little bit now to like buy back in later, or like get more Bitcoin somehow, some way? Those games are very dangerous. If you are timing the market, you most likely will lose at some point. And so don't play these games because it can be really, really detrimental to you. Now, I have a few more interesting things. I always keep them keep them for kind of the behind part of the live stream. Is I found that when I flew to Abu Dhabi and I saw that with the Binance blockchain week, and I usually don't listen to those things, but I found it very hilarious when the Binance CC, the Binance CEO, I think he now no longer is the CEO because he was in jail and all of that. He mentioned to Peter Schiff that the gold, and he made a huge accomplishment of kind of getting Peter Schiff. I want to show this to you guys.
So I have a nice box here.
What is that?
It has some I think it's Kyrgyz language. I took it back from Kyrgyzstan. It has a certificate. I got this from a very important person from Kyrgyzstan. Very recently, just completely by luck. So we take it out. It's pretty heavy. I'll put this down. You can see, like it says, Kyrgyzstan, 1,000 grams, fine gold, 99.9.9, and a serial number. Try it.
Yes. Yeah, it's heavy.
Is it real gold or no?
Well, I don't know. I mean,
I love that so much. I love that so much because like that's literally the gotcha point of like he has no way of verifying. And this is because they were discussing about digital gold versus like Bitcoin. And I think this is the whole point that is wrong with digital gold. You cannot verify the actual gold if it's real. And then how will you verify that the actual real gold is actually connected to the digital gold that you're buying? You have two verification problems. You have the first verification problem of like, is the digital gold actually gold or actually there? And then the second thing is like, is the connection between the digital gold and the actual gold real? So like, it was funny for me because like he's like, this one small comment of like, I don't know, shows like, oh yeah, like you don't have any way. Even Peter Schiff has no way of knowing, is that gold that he has himself in the hands, is that real or not? He needs to make some process of like actually verifying it.
I mean, is this what you're trying to? I mean,
so.
Yeah, I love that one. I don't know if you guys also love it, but like I absolutely love that one. Now we have, I don't know, we probably need a Jim Cramer almost section here. I have a sad story with Jim Cramer that I want to share here. But first, I found that clip also again of Jim Cramer. He said something that I actually agree with that in that clip, and I will show you guys what I mean with that.
Deposit bank. I do know that, again, the faith of the American people shocked. Just shocked. I mean, I still think that, crypto, I sold my crypto. I announced everything on TV, what I did with crypto. But I would not touch crypto in a million years because I wouldn't trust the deposit bank.
And you're making no distinction between centralized, decentralized.
He is not trusting Bitcoin because he does not trust the deposit bank. Now, you don't have, like, I agree with that you should not trust the deposit bank. You shouldn't trust Kraken or Binance or even Strike or Relay or any of the actual Bitcoin only players that are, I think, trustworthy, but you shouldn't trust them. You should trust yourself with keeping your Bitcoin. And him saying he cannot trust Bitcoin because he doesn't trust the deposit bank, which basically like the exchange or the third party that holds it for you, that in itself is hilarious for me.
Fought regulation, they didn't want regulation, and you don't have regulation. So if you have your money in any of those, look, I'm not calling you an idiot. I'm just saying you're using a lot of blind faith. And I like to have my money at JP Morgan, and I check on money.
That's such a dreadful thing to say. I like to have my money at JP Morgan. Like, why?
One day to see whether my balance is there. It's there. It feels good.
It feels good because it's like, of course, he gets money from JP Morgan. That's why he says that. But like, it's just a number on a screen. You have no way of verifying it. JP Morgan can take it away. Government can take it away. So many people can take it away from you. And you're trusting that. And you have to check if it's still there. Like, then it itself is like, oh gosh, like I would love to interview this guy. It would be really fun.
Try getting your money out. When I had money, I'm not going to mention the firm that I had my money in. But it was a fight to get the money out.
And the lesson should be not, hey, I don't trust Bitcoin. The lesson should be, I don't trust third parties. And so if you extend that lesson, you should also not trust banks, also not JP Morgan, because if you trust them, they can play the same game as they play with you in the crypto and Bitcoin market, where the third party deposit bank, how he names it, leaves your money in there and you cannot take it out. He is in a very privileged position. He is in a position where he can just call Jamie Dimon and says like, hey, I want my money out. Of course he can do that. And like, he has a problem. He just calls, like, he's a very, very privileged guy. We have to remember that. We in this live stream are probably quite privileged in itself, but he is like privileged times 10, times 100. And so him saying like, yeah, I don't like those deposit banks, I don't trust them, is like, yeah, of course, because you are the number, like, I don't know, 50 client in the JP Morgan bank. And so like if you call them, they answer within like 10 seconds. You don't have to fight with customer support. You don't have to fight with the government. You don't have to fight with anyone, because you are very, very privileged in the position that you are in. And so having someone like that saying like, I don't like Bitcoin because I don't like the deposit banks, is just like, again, insanity for me.
Fight. And I think that everybody who owns these various coins, Solana, Litecoin, I do think you're an idiot.
That's the only thing where I agree with him. If you own Solana or Litecoin, I think I also agree with them. I think he's an idiot.
Okay? I did not go to college to get stupid. These people who own these things should not own them. They shouldn't own them.
Now, what he is freaking entertainment, and so I think we should also treat it like that. The problem with entertainment is, especially on national TV, especially if he has authority like he has, people actually take him serious. And so when you followed his advice over the last 4 or 5 years, Bitcoin made like a 500x since this very tweet, since this very thing that he said here. And now there's a guy, and that's why I brought this up, that said this man owns 0 Bitcoin because Jim Cramer told him not to. And so those people like Jim Cramer have massive influence over a lot of people, and those people are the ones that I feel sad for, because those people actually need Bitcoin. Jim Cramer doesn't need Bitcoin, and so him being like saying like, oh, like this is bad Bitcoin, like I don't care, but I care for the person that actually should have Bitcoin, that actually wants Bitcoin. So that's the main kind of thing that I want to get into. And so like this is a man that didn't buy Bitcoin because of Jim Cramer. Let's listen in.
I don't know very much about it other than the price is through the roof.
Right.
And years ago, I do remember one of the prognosticators of the stock market said, "You're a real dummy if you buy the thing." Jim something or another.
Yeah. Cramer.
Cramer, that's
right.
the guy, yeah. I remember that.
Right.
And sometimes I lament that I didn't buy some. And then sometimes I say, boy, I'm glad I didn't buy some.
You think it'll replace the dollar in the future?
Personally, I hope not. I really believe that the American dollar and cash is king. I really think that we as a nation should stay away from digital currencies completely.
And this is a guy, I see this many times. This is someone that actually is a Bitcoiner. He says, cash is king. He says we should move away from digital assets. This is a guy that actually is, just from a mindset perspective, a Bitcoiner, because I think he distrusts into those digital things, which is really funny because the US dollar is mostly digital. And I think if you set him down and ask him about like how he thinks about what money should be and all of those things, I think he's actually a Bitcoiner, funny enough. So this is, in my opinion, really sad, because if he saw someone else on that day instead of Jim Cramer, like kind of pointing him towards like what Bitcoin actually is, he could be hugely influenced, like, oh, like maybe I should dabble into Bitcoin, maybe I should try that out. And so this is for me quite sad to actually see. Now let's see. Obviously, he's talking about Coinbase. Why is it obvious? I didn't get that. But like, it could be very well be that he talks about Coinbase. What is here? Yeah, 100%. And so like this was really interesting that that we saw with this guy Jim Cramer. Was like, let's not buy Bitcoin, and then there's like actual people that's take him serious, and because of Jim Cramer, people then don't do the research. Now, one more thing for today. I found that so hilarious. I loved it so much, and I want to show you guys because it's in my opinion really funny. Let's see this one. Now here it is. Sorry.
I have a PowerPoint that I've been wanting to show you for some time. In 350 BCE, Aristotle defined sound money as being durable, transferable, divisible, scarce, recognizable,
Guilfoyle?
and fungible. What?
Can we skip ahead 2,400 years? I mean, I know what cryptocurrency is.
Richard, a lot of work went into this presentation.
That's literally the moment every time, like if you're a Bitcoiner and you're like, oh, what is Bitcoin? And then you're like starting like right at the beginning of like, what is money? And people are like, oh, like I just wanted to know what Bitcoin is. Like not to get that presentation of like what money is and like how it kind of got evolved. This is literally that meme. I love that.
Fine. But you're missing out on a lot of wisdom here. Why don't you tell me what you know about Bitcoin as a jumping off point?
Okay, sure. Well, I'm pretty sure it was founded by a Japanese guy.
Or guys or girls going by the name Satoshi Nakamoto in 2008. True identity still unknown.
Okay, look, every day I read an article about how we're in a Bitcoin bubble.
And who is writing those articles? I don't want to say the establishment, but is it possible that Warren Buffett called Bitcoin a pyramid scheme because he has 92 billion conventional dollars to protect? Let's say he's right. Let's say Bitcoin dies. So what? MySpace, Friendster, they both died. But they paved the way for other social media
So now this is actually, I find that whole thing hilarious. I put it in the chat here for people on the screen, or like if you're in the chat. I think I activated the replay, so like even if you watch it later, you should be able to find it in the replay. So I just like I find it hilarious, and you guys can watch it. But it's actually really interesting. Now I forgot what to say. He said, like, what did he say? Yeah, like he said that there's like MySpace and like all of those things that paved the way for like then Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and all the other things that came along the way. I think it's different. So like that's the thing that like he kind of got wrong. Like he wanted to make the general point of crypto and crypto being kind of the protocol. But for me, Bitcoin is the protocol and cannot be replaced by any other protocol. And so this is for me the main point. Bitcoin is the protocol and everything else will be built on top of Bitcoin and not built around crypto. And like there are multiple protocols. Like Bitcoin is for me, the base layer is for me the TCP/IP protocol, something even more fundamental. I like the TCP/IP protocol comparison because it makes sense for a lot of people, but Bitcoin is even more fundamental and even deeper than actually the TCP/IP protocol. So yeah, guys, this was it for today. I absolutely love that you have been here for my first show. I will do this every single day now. I want to make this a home for Bitcoiners. We will dive deep into one specific topics. We will cover news. We will cover specific topics and see kind of what's going on in the Bitcoin world. I also want to make deep dives into, for example, strategy, what I think about it, and really diving deep in like what are the numbers, what can we expect. Deep diving into specific topics, maybe in like self-custody, maybe in tutorials, bringing to different topics, other guests in. I want to make this like a home for Bitcoiners to come here and hang out and have a great conversation. And so that's why I activate the comments here, like here on the left, so you guys can chime in and like have a say in like what's going on. And yeah, I'm really glad that I'm now doing live streaming. It feels like a bit better connection, like more direct, and it also allows me, because I no longer have a lot of time into researching different guests. So I will be less on the guest side, but like still having a lot of guests on. I will probably have still like 100 guests per year on, but 100 guests is a lot more manageable than 300 to 400 guests that I have now on. So this time that I will save on like the post-production of the podcast, the guests and all of that, I will put in the research, writing papers, presenting here things, things and diving deeper into Bitcoin for retirement and all of that. So thank you so much, guys, for being here and being part of that new journey of mine. I don't know if it will be successful or not, but I think this is something that I personally will look back in as a huge turning point for Bitcoin content creation in the past. I think that the general direction of like think about it. If you have a pre-recorded podcast and you talk about something, you get it after a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, which could be fine depending on what the topic is, but it could also be like not as good because like it's like already 3 weeks old. And so I like to talk about what's going on today and then also mix it in with like guests and also mix it in with like fundamental things that are kind of deeper and are not as time sensitive, but making it live, making it with you guys and making it as authentic as possible, because if I screw up on the live stream, it's there forever. I will not cut it out later. And anyways, people already saw it. So I love that. And yeah, thank you so much for you guys. UJ5K, good job. Thank you so much. Yorkie's back here. And cheers, Robins. I will try to catch the show regularly. Well done. Thank you so much, guys. And as always, thank you so much for watching and listening and joining in. I'll be back tomorrow with another live episode. So bye-bye. Thank you so much. This content is for educational and entertainment purposes only and does not constitute financial advice.